Part 59. The Wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Kiji Now. Chapter 582. It's all first come, first served. Len Ning continued. And to tell you the truth, the production of pills is limited and cannot supply so many people. When he said this, Len Ning's eyes were filled with a hint of cunning. The raw juice for the pills is provided by Xioman. As long as she has enough crystal nuclei in her hand, it doesn't matter how much she produces. But she wouldn't say this to anyone. The construction of the safe zone is still very short of manpower. If people from Quanglan base can join, it will greatly increase the speed of safe zone planning. As soon as Len Ning said this, Zhang Huai's expression became nervous. You have to stay close to me on this. Are you in control of the pills at the Thunder base? Zhang Huai asked Len Ning anxiously. Len Ning curled his lips and said, I can't make the decision. Although he refused, he also acknowledged Zhang Huai's question in disguise. Zhang Huai's eyes flashed, and he felt more at ease. I will make this happen as soon as possible. Please help me find a solution regarding the pills, he continued. Len Ning glanced at Zhang Huai. What time? It meant that if it took too long, there was nothing she could do. A trace of struggle flashed across Zhang Huai's face. 2 months, 2 months at most, then he said. Len Ning closed his eyelids and looked away. 1 month, 1 month is all right, Zhang Huai was anxious and said quickly. Len Ning finally looked at Zhang Huai again. At most half a month. If the time is exceeded, all the latest batch of pills will be sent out. Then he lied without blushing or heartbeat. Zhang Huai looked bitter. Okay, just half a month, I will mention this matter to my father tonight, then he said as if he had made up his mind. Only then did Len Ning raise the corner of his mouth. I'll wait for the good news for you. Then we'll take care of you at Lin's. As he spoke, Len Ning prepared to stand up and leave. Wait a minute. Zhang Huai saw Len Ning's actions and hurriedly called out to her. Len Ning gave up and stood up, looking at Zhang Huai. Anything else? My second uncle and third uncle would like to ask you for some pills for my cousins. See if you can. Zhang Huai said, a little embarrassed. The main reason why his 2 elders were so polite to him during this period was because of this. Especially his third uncle, who sent someone to tell him the news about the people coming from the Southern Army base last night, and told him about it afterwards. Len Ning has come here today. If he doesn't help them open this door, it will be impossible to explain. Len Ning glanced at Zhang Huai. Just think of it this time as thanking third uncle for informing the Southern Army base about coming. Seeing that Len Ning didn't speak, Zhang Huai continued. He also knew that this matter was a bit embarrassing for Len Ning, but now he wanted to promote Kuanglan to join Lei, and he needed the support of his 2 uncles. Or, at least, not against it. If Len Ning agrees to donate medicine today, it will not only help him, but also reassure his 2 uncles for the Thunder base. Len Ning curled his lips and finally took out 4 bottles of pills from his space ring. All 4 of them are non-Thunder type second-level pinnacles of the combat system, right? Len Ning asked, looking at Zhang Huai, who was staring at the pills on the table. She had read some information about the Quanglan base and generally knew that teacher Zhang had 4 cousins, and it was said that his superpower level had been stuck at the peak of the 2nd level for some time. But since medicine is going to be delivered, it is necessary to ask to make sure. Yes, Zhang Huai quickly replied. Then it's okay to use these pills. Len Ning directly pushed 4 bottles of pills in front of Zhang Huai. Give them 1 bottle each, let's eat first. Seeing Zhang Huai eagerly put the pills into the space ring, Len Ning continued. Teacher Zhang went to the Thunder base and gave him pills to win over the 2nd and 3rd city lords, which could be regarded as helping Kuanglan integrate into the Thunder as soon as possible. Can you? Zhang Huai looked at Len Ning longingly. Giving you 4 bottles is already against the rules. I won't have any more. Len Ning looked helpless. Okay, I'll thank you on behalf of my 2nd and 3rd uncles, Zhang Huai said. Yeah, Len Ning responded. Also help me tell them that if Quanglin base can be merged into Thunder within half a month, I will definitely guarantee the pills for your 4 cousins, Len Ning said and stood up. Zhang Huai's eyes lit up. With your words, I am sure of this matter, then he said with a smile. The corners of Len Ning's lips raised slightly. I have an appointment with my elder brother for lunch, I have to leave first. Zhang Huai was stunned. Len Ning was already walking towards the door. Len Ning, Zhang Huai suddenly shouted. Len Ning stopped and turned around. If Mr. Lei treats you badly, Zhang Huai couldn't hold back and spoke anyway. But at this point, he couldn't continue. If Mr. Lei treats her badly, what can he do? What can he do? The corners of Len Ning's mouth raised. You are overthinking, we are very happy. Seeing Zhang Huai's complicated expression, Len Ning's eyes flashed with emotion. Thank you for your concern. Zhang Huai looked up at Len Ning and smiled. This may be the most suitable relationship between them. I'll send you. He raised his feet to send Len Ning away. Len Ning stretched out his hand to stop Zhang Huai. No need, I've been here a few times and I'm all familiar with it. We are waiting for you in Thunder. Len Ning turned around and left with a smile. After Len Ning left, Zhang Huai stood there for a long time. Then he hurriedly went to find his second uncle and third uncle. On the other side, Len Ning stepped on the accelerator after leaving Quanglin base and rushed back to Thunder base. All the way back to the Thunder base military building, I found that it only took me more than an hour. Entering Lei Lei's office, Len Ning couldn't wait to run over and hugged Lei Lei. All the things in her previous life have long since passed. Now she and her eldest brother are very happy and will continue to be happy. What's wrong? Lei Lei lowered his voice and asked with a smile. Miss you, Len Ning whispered back, happily pressing her head against Lei Lei's chest. Lei Lei couldn't help but raise the corner of his mouth. He held Len Ning in this position and led her all the way to the sofa. After he sat down, he pulled Len Ning into his arms. Let the secretary order Lin's meal, and we'll go eat when we're hungry, Lei Lei said dotingly after scratching Len Ning's small nose. Len Ning's expression wrinkled, and he belatedly avoided Lei Ting's hand. Let's get down to business first. After failing to evade, he grabbed Lei Lei's big hand and put it on his leg. Okay, Lei Lei continued to dote on him. Len Ning felt sweet in her heart. I've met the people from the Southern Army base then, he said to Lei Lei. Yeah, Lei Ting looked at Len Ning. I gave them the video I took of Han Yu and forced them to send someone to come and have direct contact with us, Len Ning continued. Thunder nodded. I also asked them to exchange 10 helicopters for Han Yu, Len Ning continued. Lei Lei looked startled, and his expression finally changed a little this time. Len Ning was a little proud, waiting for Lei Lei to praise him, but unexpectedly he frowned. The Wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Kiji Now. Chapter 583. No need to change people, Thunder said. Len Ning was stunned. The helicopter will arrive sooner or later. There is no need to replace someone for them. Lei Lei took Len Ning into his arms. Len Ning felt warm in his heart. 10 helicopters, but in the eyes of the elder brother, they are not as important as her revenge. The person you finally caught, there is no need for you to sacrifice for the Thunder base. Thunder looked at Len Ning and said. He didn't marry Xiao Ning because she sacrificed for him, he just wanted her to be happy. A flash of emotion flashed in Len Ning's eyes, and she reached out to Lei Ting's forehead with her small hands, and then slowly moved her hands down to hold Lei Ting's face. Brother, you are so kind. Then he leaned forward and kissed Lei Lei on the lips. Lei Lei's expression changed slightly, and he was about to transform into a tiger, but was quickly hugged by Len Ning. Feeling that Len Ning's mood was not right, Lei Lei could only suppress his inner excitement. I told you, you have to call me husband, Lei Lei chuckled. Well, hubby, you're so kind, Len Ning adapted quickly. Lei Lei sighed. I really don't know if his little wife did it on purpose or not. Giggle. Len Ning couldn't help laughing. He stood up and saw Lei Lei looking at him with a sad look, and quickly continued talking to Lei Lei about business. I voluntarily exchanged Hanyu for 10 helicopters. Moreover, I also made another condition to the Southern Army base. At this point, Len Ning's eyes became a little cold. Lei Lei looked at Len Ning, waiting for her to finish. I want Huo Xiao's life, Len Ning said solemnly. Lei Lei's expression suddenly froze. Huo Xiao, this was the second time he heard Xiao Ning mention this name. In the previous life, this person had failed Xiao Ning, seduced him, and led her into the abyss. Thinking of this, Lei Lei felt a flash of hatred in his heart. Not only hate, but also jealousy. Noticing the unusual expression on Lei Ting's face, Len Ning rushed forward and hugged Lei Ting again. Honey, don't worry too much. I only hate that person. It was because of Huo Xiao that she didn't dare to tell her elder brother about the past. It was also because of Huo Xiao that she felt so inferior in front of her elder brother before. Lei Lei was startled. A big hand was placed on Len Ning's back, comforting Len Ning. Don't worry, I only regret that I couldn't protect you in my previous life, then he said in a deep voice. A flash of happiness flashed across Len Ning's eyes. Actually, in my previous life, Huo Xiao and I only had a relationship in name only, then he said. This is why she still has the courage to pursue her eldest brother. Her eldest brother was so perfect that she wouldn't dare approach him if his body was broken. Brother, he deserves the best woman in the world. Lei Lei was shaken. I don't care about the past. It's enough for you to be with me in this life, then he said. It would be a lie to say that I am not happy. In fact, he was very thoughtful. What he liked was Xiao Ning. No matter what happened to her, she was the most perfect one in his heart. He only felt sorry for her hurt and had no other thoughts. Husband. Len Ning stood up and looked at Lei Lei with mist in his eyes. Fool. Lei Lei stretched out his big hand and wiped the corners of Len Ning's eyes. Len Ning quickly avoided Lei Ting's big hand, and after sobbing for a while, he leaned against Lei Ting's chest again. Let's get down to business, then he said awkwardly. Okay. Lei Lei raised his lips slightly and patted Len Ning's back regularly with his big hands. With the video of Hanyu accusing Huo Xiao, the Southern Army base will definitely agree to kill Huo Xiao. And those 10 helicopters are too important to us, Len Ning said. Although the Thunder base is developing rapidly now, the market in Cydia is only so big. The population is limited, and consumption is limited. At the same time, many of the equipment and goods they need simply cannot be assembled or produced on their own. But once there are helicopters, everything will be different. The first is to address the shortage of space jade. What is certain in the previous life is that only natural jade has a chance of appearing in space, and there are places in China that specialize in producing jade. Both Xinjiang and Myanmar cities have large counties producing jade. As long as they can contact these places, they will no longer be short of space and jade. Then, with enough space for jade, they can borrow helicopters to sell goods to all parts of China, completely seizing the entire commercial territory of China. She can think of these things, and her elder brother, who has a keen sense of business, naturally knows better. Lei Lei's face was calm and he didn't speak. Besides, letting Hanyu go doesn't mean that I will really let her go. Len Ning's eyes became colder again. Lei Lei looked at Len Ning, anticipating what the little fox would say next. Guo Qiudong wants to find Hanyu, just because he wants to use Hanyu's body to continue the family lineage of their Han family in an attempt to leave a heir. When he said this, Len Ning's eyes looked a little contemptuous. He really thought he was the emperor, and even before he sat on the throne, he was worried about his successor. But he doesn't know that Hanyu was thrown into the red kill before and was forced to drink the decoction by Sister Kui. It is impossible for her to have another child in this life. Len Ning raised the corner of his mouth with a cruel smile. Are you sure? The healing ability of healing superpowers is much stronger than before the end of the world, Lei Lei reminded with a smile. I didn't feel at all that the woman in front of me was evil-hearted or cruel. Of course, Len Ning raised the corner of his mouth with a proud smile. Healing superpowers are very powerful, but they can't regenerate organs. Guo Qiudong only pretended to be a man, but in fact, he was gone long ago. As for Han Yu, in addition to the decoction Sister Kui gave her, her uterus had already been removed by someone she had arranged for. Lei Lei was slightly startled. "So, you want to use this to blackmail that woman?" he then asked. "Yes," Len Ning nodded happily, "the Southern Army base has always been unkind to us. Sending Han Yu there can play a big role." She had thought about killing Han Yu directly before, but seeing her miserable appearance, she suddenly couldn't bear to do it. It would be too easy for her to just let her die happily. Didn't she always want a prominent status? She fulfilled her. Doesn't she want a prosperous life? She also fulfilled her. As long as she is obedient, help her destroy the South Korea building and the South Army base step by step. She wouldn't mind letting her live on Earth a little longer. Finally, she would give her a chance to taste what it would be like to fall from heaven to hell, or even die at the hands of her own father. "Just think about it," Lei Lei said with a smile. "His Xiaoning is smart. Then let's settle this matter. When people come from the Southern Army base, let me go and receive them," Len Ning said directly. "Okay," Lei Lei responded. Len Ning's face was filled with joy and he jumped off Lei Ting's body. "I'm hungry, let's go eat." Then he took the initiative to extend his hand to Lei Ting. Lei Lei raised the corner of his mouth slightly, stood up, and handed over his big hand. Then, the two of them left the military headquarters building hand in hand and went to Lin's restaurant to enjoy delicious food. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Ki Now. Chapter 584. Next, Len Ning began to wait while continuing his daily activities. Finally, 5 days later, she received a call from JAC again. "Hello." Hearing from Li Feng that Zhang Huai called to talk about the Southern Army base, Len Ning answered the call quickly. "Hall Master Lang." Zhang Huai's smiling voice immediately came from the other side. "What's going on?" Len Ning was not in the mood to joke with Zhang Huai and asked directly. "The Southern Army base has sent people here again. They are here with me now. Do you want to come over?" Zhang Huai asked with a smile. Len Ning was startled. "Take them to the Thunder base to find me," he then said. Went to Quanglin base again? Was he too timid to come to their Thunder base, or did he not take her invitation seriously? "Haha, I'll tell them then." Zhang Huai was still in a good mood. "Say it now, I'll wait on the phone," Len Ning said directly. "Okay," Zhang Huai said and put down the phone. Len Ning then waited patiently by the phone, and soon vaguely heard the conversation between Zhang Huai and others. After waiting for about 10 minutes, Zhang Huai finally came back. "They promised to come over. Where can we find you?" Zhang Huai asked. "Come on, Kongzhen. I'll wait for you in the 5th branch." Len Ning thought for a while and said. Being willing to come to the Thunder base proves that the people coming from the Southern Army base are somewhat sincere. This time, she met them on her own turf. "Okay. I'll leave right away." A flash of light flashed in Zhang Huai's eyes. He happened to be planning a trip to the Thunder base, so it was just a way of sending him there. "Yeah. See you later," Len Ning responded and hung up the phone. Then he lifted his feet and walked outside. Hall Master Li Feng saw Len Ning going out of the camp again and hurriedly called to his hall master. He was afraid that Len Ning would sneak out of the safe zone again. Len Ning stopped and glanced back at Li Feng. "If you have nothing to do, just follow me then," he said to Li Feng. Li Feng was confused. "Teacher Zhang is going to send people from the Southern Army base over later and has made an appointment with Kongzhen. I'll go back and wait for them. By the way, let's go see Han Yu." Li Feng was shocked. Should this matter be reported to the military, he then asked. Others don't know that he follows the Hall Master, but he knows a lot about the Southern Army base. This hostile force needs to be taken seriously. No need. I mentioned it to my eldest brother before. I will handle and decide on matters concerning the Southern Army base by myself, Len Ning said calmly. Don't make any announcement to the outside world until the matter is settled. At present, the desire of major bases to submit to the Thunder base is growing. Soon, the Thunder base will absorb more people. It is not appropriate to release news about the Southern military base at this time. Their Thunder base, at least for the moment, must be the best choice among major bases. Yes, Li Feng immediately bowed and replied. Yeah, Len Ning glanced at Li Feng and turned to leave. Li Feng hurriedly followed. Len Ning took out the car and drove Li Feng back to Lishan, and then to Kongzhen. After arriving in Kongzhen, Len Ning went to see Han Yu. Dungeon. When Han Yu heard the noise, she climbed up excitedly and threw herself at the cell fence. The chains on her body jingled as they were pulled. Her whole body was disheveled and she looked like a crazy woman. Ha ha, Len Ning chuckled softly after catching a glimpse of Han Yu's excited eyes. Seeing that the person coming was Len Ning, Han Yu's eyes flashed with pain. Then there was a flash of hatred, and then it all dissipated. Leng Hall Master Lang Han Yu called Len Ning with a hint of despair. She no longer knew how long she had been here. Except for someone who brought her 3 meals at a fixed time every day, she saw no one else at all. No one talked to her and she was going crazy. Sometimes, she even felt that it was a good thing for Len Ning to come see her. At least she would talk to her and make her feel alive. Len Ning glanced at Han Yu up and down. Tisk, why did Commander Han's daughter make herself so embarrassed? Han Yu was shocked, and her calm heart was suddenly filled with resentment. Yes, her father is the head of the Southern Army base. She was supposed to live a life of fine clothing and fine food in the Southern Army base, but she was captured and imprisoned here by Len Ning. She eats pig food, lives in a pig pen, and lives in darkness and lifelessness every day. It's all her fault. This damn bitch. Let me out. Len Ning, let me out. Thinking of this, Han Yu's emotions collapsed and she shook the cell fence hard. Ha ha, ha ha. Len Ning smiled happily. You bitch. You don't even want to let me go. Let me out, I will kill you. Len Ning's smile stimulated Han Yu again, making her go crazy. Looking at Len Ning's expression, she almost want to eat people. Len Ning's eyes turned cold, and a vine suddenly appeared in his hand. The vines flew out and wrapped around Han Yu's neck. Han Yu immediately reached out to pull the vines, but she couldn't pull them away at all. She only felt that the vines were getting tighter and tighter. The fear of dying made Han Yu's pupils dilate and his restlessness disappeared. A pair of big eyes stared in the direction of Len Ning and kept crying, hoping to impress Len Ning and ask her to spare her life. She was so scared, she didn't want to die. Len Ning directed the vines to continue to tighten, a look of ruthlessness flashed in his eyes. But just when Han Yu rolled her eyes and was about to die, she finally withdrew the vine. Cough cough, cough. Han Yu was able to breathe again in an instant, leaning over and covering her throat, breathing and coughing heavily. Len Ning glanced at Han Yu with disgust and said sarcastically, "Weren't you afraid of death just now?" Han Yu stiffened and immediately knelt down. "No, I don't want to die." Len Ning, "Oh no, Hall Master Len, please don't kill me," Han Yu cried with tears streaming down her face. If she died, there would be nothing left. She didn't want to die, and she didn't dare. The corners of Len Ning's mouth raised, there was contempt in his eyes. Fortunately, she was afraid that she would commit suicide and ask someone to watch her. Now it seems that it is really unnecessary. When Han Yu heard Len Ning's soft hum, she felt that her dignity was being stabbed to pieces, but she did not dare to resist and could only shrink back cowardly. "Okay, I'm not here to kill you this time. I'm here to tell you good news. Len Ning finally had enough of watching Han Yu's misery and said to Han Yu. Han Yu's body stiffened. He lowered his head and didn't dare to speak at all. Seeing that Han Yu didn't respond, Len Ning's eyes looked a little disappointed. Someone is coming from the Southern Army base, he then said calmly. Han Yu raised her head suddenly and met Len Ning's eyes. Seeing the disgust flashing in Len Ning's eyes, he quickly lowered his head. Is it true? Hall Master Len, trying to suppress the ecstasy in his heart, Han Yu lowered his head and asked Len Ning. He was afraid that he would offend Len Ning. That's true. In another hour or so at most, their representatives will go to the 5th branch office building next door and interview me. The Wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Ki Now. Chapter 585. Really? Dad sent someone to pick me up. Han Yu was overjoyed and looked up at Len Ning again, unable to hide her joy on her face. Unexpectedly, Len Ning didn't scold her again this time. It's true. But I'm not here to pick you up, he said calmly. The smile on Han Yu's face immediately faded. What do you mean? Len, Hall Master Len, what do you mean by this? Then he asked Len Ning with a hint of fear. Len Ning raised the corner of his mouth. I sent a message to the Southern Army base before, asking Commander Han to trade Huo Xiao's life and 10 helicopters for you. The location is at the Thunder base. Han Yu's expression froze. Hearing Huo Xiao's name, a trace of resentment flashed in his eyes. Unfortunately, when they came to Sidia this time, they did not go directly to Thunder base, but went to Quanglan. Len Ning continued, it seems that Huo Xiao didn't bring them either. As for the 10 helicopters I wanted before, it's even less likely to be brought. At this point, Len Ning's tone was already tinged with disappointment. Len, Master Len, don't worry. Since my father is willing to send people to Sidia again, it means that he wants to save me. Han Yu tried to calm down. You asked me to meet with the representatives of the Southern Army base and let me convince them. Han Yu looked at Len Ning with burning eyes. As you said before, my father only has a daughter, and he will definitely save me. Len Ning looked at Han Yu with an indifferent expression. Master Len, let me try. I can get more conditions for you. Han Yu continued, don't worry, this is the Thunder base. Even if you let me out, I can't escape. Huh? Han Yu's eyes were full of desire. At this time, no matter how much she hated Len Ning, she had to endure it and even please her. This was her only chance now. As long as she is allowed to see the people at the Southern Army base, she will definitely find a way to get her father to save her. Huo Xiao is a traitor, and his father will never let him go after learning the truth. In addition, there are only 10 helicopters. She is her father's only daughter, so he must be willing to give up this little thing. Oh, Len Ning raised the corner of his mouth. What a good daughter, she knows how to plan for the father she has never met. Haha, he has such a good temper. Once he is released, it will be easy to control him. 15. I'll help you get 15 helicopters. Seeing Len Ning loosen up, Han Yu quickly knelt down and crawled towards Len Ning. A flash of disgust flashed in Len Ning's eyes, and he took a step back. Han Yu stopped quickly, not daring to get closer to Len Ning. Since you are sincere, Len Ning only said half of his words. Han Yu looked at Len Ning with burning eyes, but after waiting for a long time, she didn't hear the last part of Len Ning's sentence. Please give me a chance, Master Len. Please. Seeing Len Ning's expression changing, Han Yu hurriedly kowtowed to Len Ning again. Okay, who can make me kind-hearted, haha. Len Ning laughed out loud. Han Yu looked overjoyed and immediately looked up at Len Ning. Thank you, Hall Master Len, thank you. Li Feng. Len Ning suppressed the smile on his face and shouted not far away. Here, Hall Master. Li Feng then walked over. He and the Hall Master had visited this woman named Han Yu twice before, and each time the Hall Master's performance made him dumbfounded. This woman, I don't know what she did, to offend the hall master to this extent. This time he had some experience. In order to get out early, this woman even tricked her own father. Find someone to clean up for her, and then take her to my office. Len Ning glanced at Han Yu again with disgust, and put his hand under his nose. It really stinks. This scene caused a flash of pain in Han Yu's eyes, but the emotion disappeared almost instantly. Thank you, Hall Master Leng. I will definitely perform well instead, he smiled flatteringly at Len Ning. It's good to know. Len Ning glanced at Han Yu one last time and turned to leave. After leaving the cellar and the small house, Len Ning told Li Feng that they were optimistic about Han Yu and went to the 5th branch building. All the way up to the top floor, I entered my own exclusive office. She hasn't been here for many days. But because there are dedicated people cleaning, the place is still clean and tidy. Len Ning walked to the desk, pulled out his special boss chair, and sat on it. When he saw the phone on his desk, he thought about it, picked up the phone and called Lei Lei. Soon, the internal call went directly to the Thunder office. Hello. Thunder's voice came quickly from the other end of the phone. It's me. A smile appeared on Len Ning's face. Husband. There was a moment of silence on the other side. Where are you? Then the magnetic voice was filled with a hint of smile. Where's Kang Zhen? Len Ning's little hand was wrapped around the curved phone cord, and his voice was soft, making the person on the other side feel a little itchy. Wait for me. Lei Lei soon couldn't hold himself any longer and said directly. Len Ning's expression changed slightly. Ahem, I'm back for business. He quickly put away his teasing intentions. Lei Lei's face fell. Then I'll come over to accompany you to do business. Then his face became energetic again. Ha brother, I was wrong. Len Ning apologized quickly, fearing that Lei Lei would really come over. The other person said nothing. It's really business. People from the Southern Army base will be coming over later, Len Ning finally said. On the other end of the phone, Lei Lei frowned. Where did the news come from? Asked. They went to Quanglan base, and I asked Teacher Zhang to send them over for discussion. Len Ning said, don't worry, I can handle this matter, so don't come here. A flash of hesitation flashed in Lei Lei's eyes. Come see me immediately after the discussion. Then he said. Xiao Ning didn't want him to interfere, so he wouldn't. But he will always be there. Okay, I know. Husband, Len Ning felt a sense of happiness in his heart. Yeah. Lei Lei raised the corner of his mouth. Then I'll hang up first, Len Ning said playfully. Okay, Lei Lei replied. Len Ning then put the phone back on the landline. With her big brother here, she felt full of strength. So, Nan Army Base, Han Yu, Huo Xiao and Guo Qiudong, not only will I not lose this time, I will also kill you. Len Ning leaned back and fell directly on the boss's chair, waiting for someone to come to the door. After waiting for about 20 minutes, Li Feng and Han Yu arrived first. I saw that after taking care of herself, Han Yu finally looked like a human being. Although he looks sallow and skinny, his eyes are full of energy. Hall Master Li Feng walked to the center and bowed to Len Ning. Han Yu, who was looking around curiously just now, also leaned down. Yes. You go down first. Len Ning waved to Li Feng, but his eyes remained on Han Yu. Han Yu couldn't help but tremble and quickly buried her head lower. Ha ha. Len Ning snorted softly. Han Yu trembled. 15 helicopters, Len Ning asked with a smile. The wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Kiji Now. Chapter 586. Yes. I will try my best to help you get it. Han Yu looked at Len Ning timidly. Len Ning's face darkened. Try your best, that's not what she said before. No, definitely. I will help you get it, Han Yu said quickly. Len Ning closed his eyelids and let Han Yu go. Go and stay inside. Don't say anything until I ask you to come out, Len Ning said. Yes, yes. Han Yu glanced at Len Ning fearfully, lowered her head and walked towards the lounge next to her. Entering the lounge, Han Yu was immediately attracted by the furnishings inside. The fruit snacks to eat, the beautiful clothes to wear, the exquisite dressing table, everything is available here, just like a suite. Seeing a makeup mirror on the dressing table, Han Yu couldn't help but walked over. Then she glanced at the door. Seeing that Len Ning didn't show up, he finally took the courage to carefully pull out the stool and sit in front of the dressing table. Raising her head, she quickly saw herself in the mirror. The skin is dark and sallow, without any blood, and the face is so thin that it almost loses its appearance. With a flash of panic in his eyes, Han Yu reached out and touched her face. Only then did he see that his hands in the mirror were thin and skinny. Her hands, like her face, had very sallow skin. Moreover, her nails, which she had been very satisfied with before, also became dirty and looked very disgusting. There was no way, the man who sent her here was in a hurry, and she was so dirty that many parts of her body were not cleaned. Hands are one of them. Although she was born into a poor family, she knew that she was very good looking, and her beauty was her greatest asset. So she has always taken good care of her face and body. But now her beauty was gone, her body was in disrepair, and the person in the mirror was too ugly for her to accept. Han Yu collapsed a little, but she didn't dare to make a sound, so she could only lean down and hold her head and cry silently. After almost 4 or 5 minutes, she forced herself to calm down. She can no longer go back to that dark pig pen. She must seize this opportunity. As long as she can leave here and wait until she reaches the Southern Army base, she can start over and live a good life. Thinking of this, Han Yu wiped away her tears. I started to straighten my appearance in front of the mirror. She didn't dare touch Len Ning's cosmetics, but because she had no money, she had studied some makeup tips before. Even if you don't have tools, you can still find ways to make yourself look better. She will meet the representative sent by her father later, and she has to look more energetic. In the office outside, Len Ning was admiring Han Yu's performance on the computer screen. There were snacks on the desk at this moment. Knock knock knock. Just as she was about to continue grabbing a handful of melon seeds, there was a knock on the door. Master, the second young master has brought guests over. Then Li Feng's voice sounded from the outer door. Len Ning curled her lips, gave up her plan to continue eating snacks, and looked at the door. Come in then, he said. Then, the door opened. Zhang Huai walked in with 2 people. One of them, Len Ning knew, was the tall man who talked to her last time. Master Leng. The 2 of them stood up straight and saluted Len Ning with clasped fists. One of the slender men stood in front. It was obvious that he was taller than the tall man, and he was also the one who wanted to talk to her next. Sit down, Len Ning said casually, glancing at Zhang Huai. Then she picked up the rubbish she had just created on her desk. The slender man and the tall man looked at each other, then went to sit on the sofa nearby. The slender man glanced at Len Ning, feeling a little contemptuous in his heart. Is this the second largest figure in the Thunder base? She clearly looks like a useless woman. Staying in such a luxurious office but not working, just watching TV and eating sunflower seeds is a complete meal. The tall man is different. He has dealt with Len Ning once before and knows that Len Ning is not as simple as he seems now. Zhang Huai glanced at Len Ning with a smile, then walked over and found a seat by himself. Master Len, I wonder where Miss Han is, the slender man asked Len Ning as soon as he sat down. At the same time, in the lounge separated by a wall, Han Yu also heard the voice of a slender man. I saw a flash of excitement in her eyes, followed by ecstasy. I almost ran out in excitement. But as soon as she took a step, she quickly stopped. Len Ning had greeted her before, but she had to wait until she called her before she could go out. Thinking of this, Han Yu forced herself to suppress her inner excitement and stopped not far from the door. Here, she could hear the conversation outside more clearly. In the place where she should be, Len Ning put the melon seed shells into the trash can, then pulled 2 pieces of tissue paper from the desk and wiped the table. The slender man frowned, feeling that he didn't get the respect he deserved. "Tell me, have you brought Huo Xiao's head? There are also 10 helicopters I want." Len Ning seemed not to notice the slender man's expression at all, and said to him, "Your requirements are too harsh." The slender man's expression changed slightly, and then he remembered that he was here to negotiate terms with the woman opposite. Len Ning raised his head and glanced at the slender man strangely. Seeing this, the slender man actually felt uneasy. "You didn't bring anything with you, so what do you want from me?" Len Ning did not hide her unhappiness with the slender man at the moment. Seeing this, the slender man felt very angry. Just as he was about to speak, the tall man beside him quickly interrupted. "Don't be offended, Hall Master Leng. We are here to talk to you sincerely," the tall man said to Len Ning with a bit of flattery. Then, the tall man winked at the slender man. The slender man glanced and calmed down his emotions. "This is Chen Xing, Deputy Director of our Munitions Department. We were personally dispatched by the commander to talk to you about Miss Han," the tall man introduced. Len Ning was stunned. Then he took a serious look at Chen Xing. She knows this cannon fodder. Because of his good family background, this Chen Xing was actually the first candidate chosen by South Korea to breed Han Yu. It's a pity that Huo Xiao couldn't let anyone threaten him, so he just easily devised a plan and killed him. Chen Xing was originally a little proud when he heard the tall man introduce himself. It can be seen that Len Ning looked at him with an even weirder look, and he felt unhappy again. But this time he held it in and didn't get emotional. Uncle Han entrusted him with the task of rescuing Miss Han because he favored him, and he could not let Uncle Han down. At the same time, his father also said that if he could handle this matter well, he could find a way to facilitate a relationship between him and Miss Han. Although, he has no interest in Miss Han, whom he has never met before, but her identity will be of great help to him. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Kiji Now. Chapter 587. Moreover, I heard that Miss Han had good grades before the end of the world, went to an aristocratic school in City A, and had the best looks, so he would definitely try his best to save her back. Len Ning glanced at Chen Xing, obviously not paying attention to him. Chen Xing was furious, but he was stared at by the tall man and could only continue to endure. "No matter who comes, don't try to negotiate terms with me." Len Ning looked at Chen Xing and the tall man indifferently. Seeing this made the two of them feel tense for a moment. "Moreover, I am very dissatisfied with your non-abiding behavior. Therefore, the conditions have now changed," Len Ning continued. The two of them became even more nervous now. "I still want Huo Xiao's life. In addition, the number of helicopters has been changed from 10 to 15, Len Ning said directly. "You robbed," Chen Xing stood up suddenly and said angrily to Len Ning. Their entire southern military base only had 20 helicopters in total. Not only did she refuse to reduce the number she requested, she also added 5 more. Even a lion can't open a mouth as big as hers. Len Ning's eyes instantly turned cold, and a pressure moved in Chen Xing's direction. Almost immediately, Chen Xing and others felt a huge sense of oppression. Zhang Huai and Tall Man were better off. They relied on their abilities to reach the middle stage of the third level and sat down again, basically keeping their expressions unchanged. Chen Xing was not so lucky. Although he had reached the third level, he had only reached the early stage. In addition, he was still standing, and when the pressure came on, he had no choice but to hold on. After forcing himself to carry it for 5 seconds, he couldn't bear it anymore. Seeing that Chen Xing was about to fall back, the tall man quickly spoke to Len Ning despite the pressure. "Master Leng, please calm down." Len Ning glanced at the tall man, raised the corners of his lips, and continued to look at Chen Xing, who was carrying him, as if he was looking at a clown. Chen Xing gritted his teeth and persisted, but his strength was limited and he could not resist. The tall man looked anxious. Hall Master Leng. Len Ning curled his lips and finally put away his pressure. For a moment, the surrounding atmosphere returned to normal, and the three of them breathed a sigh of relief. Zhang Huai glanced at Len Ning and felt admiration in his heart. This strength really crushes him. Chen Xing did not dare to be rude to Len Ning anymore. Looking at Len Ning's expression, he became a little more fearful and hurriedly sat back in his seat. I really didn't expect this woman to be so strong. Even if she were placed in their Southern Army base, she would probably be one of the strongest. He had heard before that there were many experts in the Thunder base, but he still didn't believe it. I feel that since they don't have the means to obtain high-level crystal cores from the Southern Army base, they will never be able to cultivate so many superpower masters. But now he believes it. This cynical woman can become a strong person above the 4th level, and it is even more possible for others. Master Leng, 15 helicopters are indeed too many. Do you think 8 will be enough? The tall man glanced at Chen Xing and said to Len Ning with a sad face. Deputy Director Chen has not made any achievements since he took office, so he only joined the military because of his father's relationship with the commander. Hey, the commander actually gave him such an important task this time. After all, he underestimated the Thunder base. This Hall Master Leng looks cynical, but is actually extremely difficult to deal with. Now that she has a handle, it may be difficult to negotiate terms. Huh, Len Ning smiled weirdly, do you think I'm a beggar? The tall man and Chen Xing's heart suddenly tightened. But we can't afford that many helicopters, Chen Xing said anxiously to Len Ning. Before leaving, he repeatedly promised his father and Uncle Han that he would save Miss Han at the minimum cost. What he was thinking at the time was that being casual would definitely reduce the demands on the Thunder base. So after coming out of the Southern Army base, he didn't go directly to the Thunder base, but went to Quanglin. What he was planning was to make Len Ning realize the reality. He made a gesture to tell her that their southern military base would not follow her threats. Unexpectedly, Zhang Huai helped them contact her, and she actually asked them to come to the Thunder base to talk. At that time, he wanted to turn around and leave, but thinking that Miss Han was still in the Thunder base, he endured it. Then he followed Zhang Huai here. This Thunder base was indeed beyond his expectation. What he saw along the way in the base shocked him almost beyond belief. The development here is actually better than their southern military base. Of course, these are nothing. In these last days, combat power and weapons are the most valuable. And their southern army base is in short supply of these two things. Thinking of this, Chen Xing made up his mind. Yes, he is the representative of the southern military base. Thunder base would never dare to be their enemy. Didn't you say that you have at least 50 helicopters? Why can't you get out only 15 of them now? Len Ning said sourly, glancing at Zhang Huai by the way. The tall man immediately looked at Zhang Huai. He doesn't look good. Needless to say, these words must have been revealed from Quanglin base. Because in order to win over Quanglin's base, they had told Quanglin's people based on this number. Hey, once Zhang Lin died, the newly promoted Zhang Huai focused on the Thunder base. They had lost Kuanglan as an ally. Zhang Huai's expression froze. After the tall man looked away from himself, he looked at Len Ning helplessly. The reason he came here this time was to discuss Quanglin's merger with the Thunder base. His heart was already leaning toward the Thunder base. Okay. It's already this time, and you deliberately embarrass him in front of the people at the Southern Army base. Is it necessary? Len Ning pursed her lips, feeling a little happy. There are really too many places where helicopters are needed, Chen Xing said helplessly. In my heart, I began to curse the person who spread the rumor that their southern military base had 50 helicopters. Now in front of the people at Quanglan Base, he couldn't say that they had lied before. Moreover, the lie has been exposed. Changing the story now will only make the Thunder Base look down on them, which will be very detrimental to their subsequent negotiations. So, he could only find other excuses. Although he himself knew that this excuse would be difficult for Len Ning to believe. Then you can use it as soon as possible. Len Ning saw through it without saying anything. How could she not know how many planes there were in the Southern Army base? Han Yu had told her personally in her previous life. The tall man looked anxious and was about to speak. Well, it is not an exaggeration to say that the Southern Army base is such a large base and is the most powerful base in B City. I believe that Commander Han himself will not refuse my offer, Len Ning said first. No. Chen Xin was anxious and couldn't help but speak. But as soon as he said a word, he was stopped by Len Ning's displeased look. I'm very busy, and I don't have time to talk nonsense with you. As soon as these words came out, there was silence in the office. The tall man looked at Chen Xin with a frown. Chen Xin was also so worried that he almost didn't beat himself on the head. The wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Ki Now. Chapter 588. This damn thing was like a scholar meeting a soldier. This woman had no intention of negotiating with them from the beginning to the end. Or maybe her brain circuit is simply unconventional. Miss Han, Hall Master Len, please let us meet Miss Han, the tall man suddenly said to Len Ning, this way we can deal with the commander when we go back. The previous video did not prove that their lady was still alive. Regardless of how angry he would be if he informed the commander of the conditions after returning. At least they now have to confirm the fact that the young lady is alive. There is no point in negotiating if the person is dead. If they were still alive, then it would not be unjust for them to go back and be punished to death by the commander. Chen Xin seemed to have remembered something, and immediately looked up at Len Ning. Len Ning glanced at the two of them. Okay then, he said calmly. Then, Len Ning shouted in the direction of the lounge inside, come out. Chen Xin and the tall man immediately looked at the door of the inner room. 10 seconds later, an extremely thin figure walked out of the inner room. Chen Xin frowned, feeling a little disappointed. Is this the beauty that her father calls her? With such a skinny appearance, it would probably hurt your hands to hold him. But thinking that this was his Uncle Han's daughter after all, Chen Xin quickly calmed down his unhappy mood. Before he came, the big stupid man next to him had told him that Miss Han might be being abused by Len Ning. So, maybe she became like this just because she was tortured. Judging from her facial features and stature, if she is raised, she might be able to be raised back. Thinking of this, Chen Xin felt a little better. Master Leng Hanyu walked to the center of the office and saluted Len Ning respectfully. Her attitude at this time was neither humble nor arrogant. It was completely different from the previous state when she entered the lounge inside. When Chen Xin and the tall man saw Hanyu's posture, they felt a little admiration in their hearts. As expected of the daughter of Uncle Han/Commander, even though she is now trapped in the enemy's territory, she is still so elegant. Yeah, Len Ning responded and cooperated with Hanyu without breaking her disguise. These two people are the people sent to negotiate by your Southern Army base. They said they want to see you. Len Ning glanced at Hanyu. You talk to them, and by the way, you can ask them to help you bring a message to Commander Han. Hanyu trembled and said, thank you, Hall Master Lang. She felt a little excited. But it only took a moment for her to calm down her excitement. Then Hanyu turned around and looked at Chen Xin and the tall man. Chen Xin finally got to see Hanyu face to face, and saw that although her face was haggard, her eyes were particularly bright and attractive. Thank you very much. Hanyu stood up and bowed to the two of them. She is the daughter of the leader of the Southern Army base. With her status in mind, she cannot bow down to these two people. But she could bow to them both to express her gratitude for their visit. In this way, he quietly pleased the two of them. The tall man quickly stood up and returned the salute to Han Yu. Chen Xing also stood up. "Miss, you must not take this for granted," the tall man said. "You're welcome, Miss Han." Chen Xing also followed. Just for these beautiful eyes, he would give her 20 points. When he takes her back to the Southern Army base, he will feed her with good food and drink, so that sooner or later she will come back beautiful. Thinking of this, Chen Xing felt a little excited. Just this expression made Han Yu feel a little strange. But she didn't have the heart to guess. Now she had to win the favor of these two people, let them go back to persuade her father, and then bring her back with what Len Ning wanted. "Thank you for your hard work, you too." A grateful smile appeared on Han Yu's face, but if you look closely, you can see that the smile is very bitter. "It's not hard, it's all deserved," Chen Xing said quickly. He didn't know why, maybe because he knew that the woman opposite was his future wife, but seeing her expression, he felt a little distressed. "Don't worry, Miss Han, I will definitely find a way to rescue you as soon as possible." Seeing Han Yu's moved eyes towards him, Chen Xing said hurriedly. "Haha," Len Ning interrupted with a contemptuous smile. Chen Xing frowned and subconsciously wanted to speak to Len Ning. But he saw Han Yu give him a look and stop him from acting out of impulse. Realizing that Han Yu was worried about him and thinking about himself, Chen Xing felt a sense of happiness in his heart. Little did he know that Han Yu had actually hated him for a long time. Who on earth selected this trash? She had wanted to greet his ancestors several times in the inner lounge just now. If you don't have the ability, forget it. Why don't you just shut up and be a dull gourd? He was like a troublemaker, making the negotiation situation worse and worse. Of course, she could only keep these emotions in her heart. This Chen Xing's status was obviously much higher than that of the people next to him. She wanted her father to promise to give Len Ning 15 helicopters, and he could only help. "Thank you, Mr. Chen." Han Yu smiled at Chen Xing disappointedly. He prepared himself as if he would definitely stay in the Thunder base for a long time. "There is no need to be polite between you and me." Chen Xing looked straight at Han Yu. "I feel that I am really satisfied with this fiancé. He has a good temperament and a good temper, and is good to him, and he should still be a beautiful child after being raised well. What else is there to choose from him?" A flash of doubt flashed in Han Yu's eyes. Ahem. Seeing that Chen Xing was about to say something outrageous, the tall man interrupted Chen Xing. Chen Xing frowned and immediately looked at the tall man displeased. The tall man winked at Chen Xing and glanced in the direction of Len Ning. Only then did Chen Xing restrain his anger. Also, they are still on the territory of the Thunder base, and it is not appropriate to reveal the identity of Miss Han's fiancé for the time being. "Don't worry, Miss Han. When I get back, I will definitely talk to the commander and ask him to agree to the terms. I will come to pick you up personally," Chen Xing said firmly to Han Yu. "Isn't it just 15 planes? They also have 5 helicopters. If Uncle Han really doesn't want to bring out so many helicopters, at worst, his family will bring out the remaining 5. The father would not be stingy if he knew he was going to use a helicopter to rescue his future daughter-in-law." A flash of excitement flashed in Han Yu's heart, but her face remained calm. "No, please go back, Mr. Chen, and tell my father not to save me," Han Yu said with a stinging expression. As soon as these words came out, everyone in the room was shocked. Including Len Ning. But Len Ning soon realized what Han Yu had planned. Then I couldn't help but give her a thumbs up in my heart. Looking at Chen Xing's shocked expression, Han Yu continued, "Helicopters are vital to the Southern Army base. You can't let the Southern Army base suffer such a big loss just because you have to save me." The tall man looked at Han Yu in shock. Chen Xing's face was filled with emotion. What a woman who understands justice. As expected of Uncle Han's daughter. The wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Kge Now. Chapter 589. "Miss Han, You don't have to be like this. The commander has been trying to find you. Now that he knows you are at Thunder Base, he will definitely take you back no matter what, Chen Xing said firmly to Han Yu. If the situation didn't allow it, he would definitely reveal his identity to her now to put her at ease. His woman shouldn't have to endure this, she only deserves to enjoy happiness. Han Yu raised her eyes and looked at Chen Xing, tears instantly filling her eyes. He held it back, not wanting anyone to see his vulnerability. With this expression, Chen Xing and the tall man were instantly conquered. How could they bear to let such a sensible and temperless girl suffer? Miss, please be patient for a little longer. When we get back, we will truthfully report your situation here to the commander, the tall man said. Well, I promise you. Within 5 days, I will definitely come back and take you away. After hearing the tall man's words, Chen Xing took the initiative to promise Han Yu. Han Yu was happy in her heart, but looked at Chen Xing with worry on her face. Don't dash, she continued to play the role of a well-behaved daughter who didn't want to cause trouble to her father. Although this man is a fool, he seems to have a high status. She had to go harder on him. Okay, stop talking. Just wait and wait, Chen Xing looked at Han Yu tenderly. A hint of shyness flashed across Han Yu's face, and her eyes averted for a moment. This little expression successfully pleased Chen Xing and made him determined to marry Han Yu. Seeing that the situation was getting worse and worse, the tall man coughed slightly, interrupting Chen Xing's dazed look. Chen Xing glanced at the tall man unhappily, but finally came to his senses. Hall Master Liang. Then, Chen Xing turned and looked at Len Ning. As soon as Len Ning looked at him, he unconsciously lowered his gaze. We already know Hall Master Leng's conditions, and we will relay them to the commander when we get back. Chen Xing wanted to speak to Len Ning with more momentum, but found that when facing Len Ning, he couldn't raise his momentum at all. Okay, Len Ning curled his lips and said as if he didn't care much. Please also ask Hall Master Leng to take good care of Miss Han these days. I will definitely pick her up personally within 5 days, Chen Xing continued. When he said this, he looked at Han Yu sideways. At this time, Han Yu was frowning slightly and looking at him worriedly. He looked back at her comfortingly, letting her rest assured. Hearing Chen Xing mention 5 days, Len Ning finally became more serious. Okay, I'll give you some face. I'll give her a different environment for these 5 days. There was finally a smile on Han Yu's face. This deliberately controlled and processed smile not only did not arouse the suspicion of Chen Xing and the tall man, but also made Han Yu appear more real in their hearts. She is still a little girl after all, how can she be so tolerant? Deep down in her heart, she must be longing for a better life and to return to the Southern Army base as soon as possible. Len Ning raised the corners of his mouth. It's not unreasonable for her to be a high-level socialite at a Southern military base in her previous life. Han Yu has 2 brushes. But if you don't come back in 5 days, or you don't bring what I want, Len Ning's eyes quickly turned cold. Everyone in the room was excited. Then don't blame me then, Len Ning looked at Han Yu. Han Yu's expression suddenly became frightened, and she immediately looked at Chen Xing for help. This time it was purely the most natural reaction. Chen Xing almost wanted to go over and hug Han Yu, then pat her back to comfort her and tell her not to be afraid. But he knew that he couldn't do this, so he could only continue to comfort Han Yu with his eyes. It's true that she is the daughter of your Southern Army base. But here, she is nothing. She is not even as good as a low-level animal, Len Ning said in a mean tone. You should know that I don't deal with her. Bar. Chen Xing's heart trembled, and he was very afraid of Len Ning. But Han Yu looked at him with pleading eyes, so he could only face Len Ning bravely. If the things are not delivered in 5 days, I will cut off one of her arms. Len Ning glanced at Han Yu's hand meaningfully. Han Yu quickly dodged and walked directly behind Chen Xing. Chen Xing's heart shrank and he forced himself to look at Len Ning again. Just as he was about to speak, Len Ning continued, if the sixth day doesn't come, I'll cut off the other arm. Han Yu hid. Len Ning could only look at Chen Xing and said, the next step is 2 feet. Seeing Chen Xing's face turned pale with fright, Len Ning smiled particularly sweetly, anyway, 1 place a day. I personally suggest that if you haven't decided to give me your things by the 7th day, don't come. Because if you come, you will only get a cripple with no hands, Len Ning reminded him kindly. Han Yu was already shaking and subconsciously grabbed one of Chen Xing's arms. Chen Xing shuddered and subconsciously patted the back of Han Yu's hand to tell her not to panic. It's okay, I will bring something to save you on time. Then he whispered to Han Yu. Have Master Leng said this, are you really not afraid of becoming an enemy of our Southern Army base? The tall man suddenly stood up. When he returned from Quanglin to the Southern Army base last time, Hall Master Leng specially reminded them to pay attention to safety and beware of Huo Xiao when they went back. At that time, he thought Len Ning was a good person, at least not a vicious person. But listening to her words now, it makes people feel numb and shuddering. Looking at the young lady's condition, she would have been threatened and intimidated by her at ordinary times. Her temper is so gloomy and unpredictable, and she may really attack the young lady at some point. Len Ning glanced at the tall man and raised the corners of his mouth. Weren't we already enemies a long time ago? Then he asked lightly. The expressions of the tall man and Chen Xing changed instantly. Does Hall Master Leng have some misunderstanding about our southern military base? The tall man said quickly. They had previously intended to win over Quanglin to deal with the Thunder base, but they had never had a substantial fight with the Thunder base. Even if they had bad intentions, they never put their thoughts on the table. Len Ning raised the corner of his mouth and said, there is no misunderstanding and everyone knows it well. When I go back, I also want to give your Commander Han a message. Our Thunder base not only sells conventional arms, but also a lot of weapons that can defend against air defense. If anyone dares to come and provoke us, we will pay back tenfold, Len Ning said solemnly. When she gets the helicopter, not to mention paying back 10 times, but so what if she pays back 100 times? These words were like a thunder, hitting the hearts of the tall man and Chen Xing hard, making them frightened. They naturally know about the production of guns and ammunition at the Thunder base. Perhaps I have never heard of anti-aircraft weapons. This is big news. Their southern military base can intimidate major bases by relying on helicopters that can carry weapons. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Kiji Now. Chapter 590. If Thunder Base really has weapons that can shoot down their helicopters, then they really can't open fire on Thunder Base rashly. After all, helicopters are too precious, and having one shot down is a huge loss to them. Yes, Hall Master Leng, don't worry, we will convey it to you. The tall man calmed down his expression and said to Len Ning, cupping his fists. Len Ning glanced at the two of them again and picked up the phone on the table. See you off, she only said 2 words into the phone. The tall man and Chen Xing looked at each other, looking a little embarrassed. She actually issued an eviction order just like that. After a while, there was a knock on the door. Come in, Len Ning said 1 word, and Li Feng came in. The vegetable base is very empty, take them there to get on the plane, Len Ning said directly. Yes, Li Feng responded immediately. Chen Xing wanted to say something to Len Ning, but his sleeve was pulled by Chen Xing beside him. Chen Xing's expression changed slightly and he gave up the idea of arguing with Len Ning. You too, please, Li Feng urged when he saw that Chen Xing didn't move. Chen Xing glanced at Li Feng, and then turned to look at Han Yu, who was still carefully tugging on his sleeve. Wait until I come back, Chen Xing said to Han Yu with a touch of tenderness in his heart. Yeah, Han Yu nodded, pretending to be strong. Watching the tall man and Chen Xing leave his sight. When the two of them and Li Feng were out of the door, Len Ning looked at Han Yu with a chuckle. The play was well performed, he smiled contemptuously. Han Yu shrank and subconsciously looked at Zhang Huai. There was nothing she could do. After all these things, she was really scared of Len Ning now. Len Ning also looked at Zhang Huai, with a hint of teasing in his eyes. Zhang Huai hurriedly shook his body, as if to shake off the goosebumps on his body. "Don't look at me, I'm not that Chen Xing," then he said to Han Yu. This little girl, if he hadn't watched the whole thing just now, he would never have thought that she had such ability. Before the end of the world, I heard women talk about green tea, etc., and they were amazing. Today he saw it live. It's not that he's awesome, but he's actually so awesome. A flash of vulnerability flashed in Han Yu's eyes. Seeing this made Zhang Huai feel sad and frowned. "Farewell, it's just a matter between teachers and students. Let me, the teacher, go then," he said pitifully to Han Yu. Ha 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 ha. Zhang Huai's words directly made Len Ning laugh. Han Yu's expression froze and she finally looked away from Zhang Huai. He didn't dare to look at Len Ning, he just stood humbly and cowardly with his head lowered. Len Ning quickly stopped smiling. "I'm quite satisfied with your performance today," then he said to Han Yu, "I will arrange a new place for you in the next 5 days. Han Yu was filled with joy. But he still lowered his head, for fear that his movements and expressions would offend Len Ning. "Remember, be good. Don't try to run away and cause trouble for me, or else." Len Ning didn't say the next words. "No, I will be obedient. I won't run away," Han Yu said quickly. As he spoke, his body was shaking. Len Ning glanced at Han Yu again, and then picked up the phone on the table. After a few words with the other end of the phone, someone soon came to take Han Yu away. Han Yu naturally wanted to be able to get out of Len Ning's sight. The obedient one followed the person who came to pick him up. Haha. After Han Yu also left, Zhang Huai looked at Len Ning with a smile. After all, that little girl used to be his student, and he was really embarrassed to laugh in front of her. Han Yu looked like a chicken in front of an eagle just now. She would tremble when Len Ning looked at her. It had only been a few days since she was brought back to Thunder Base by Len Ning. This change was really amazing. Forgive him for being an unscrupulous person for once, but he still found it funny to see such a poor little girl being bullied. Just because he has known Len Ning for so long, he knows what Len Ning's character is. If she hadn't offended Len Ning so badly, she probably wouldn't have ended up like this. As Len Ning's mentor and partner, he naturally would not sympathize with Len Ning's enemies. Even if her enemy was once his student. "What are you laughing at?" Len Ning glanced at Zhang Huai angrily. Zhang Huai slowly suppressed the smile on his face. "How do you feel about torturing the enemy to this extent with your own hands?" he then asked Len Ning. Seeing today's scene, he regretted that he had attacked Zhang Lin like that. If he could hold Zhang Lin in his hands and knead it like Len Ning, it would be a pleasure. Of course, he was just thinking about these things. In the situation at that time, if he didn't take action against him, he would take action against himself at any time. And if he didn't have Len Ning's help, it would be impossible to get rid of Zhang Lin. Not bad. Len Ning curled his lips, not hiding his feelings. It's such a weird situation. Being with Zhang Huai not only means that he doesn't have to hide from himself, but she can also be an outspoken person. She clearly knew that Zhang Huai was utilitarian and hypocritical, but she still admired him. It's a pity. If we really gave people to the Southern Army base, I'm afraid we wouldn't have so much fun, Zhang Huai said with a bit of regret. Len Ning looked at Zhang Huai with a little irritation in his eyes. Stop prying and inquiring blindly, a grown man is such a gossip. Sure, Zhang Huai smiled and patted his leg. Tell me, what do you want from me this time? Len Ning said goodbye to Zhang Huai. Zhang Huai smiled on his face and said, if I have nothing to do, I can't talk to you about old times. I helped bring you the person. Now that you have just finished the matter, you are going to issue an eviction order to me, the teacher. Although the content of the words was complaining, Zhang Huai's expression was just amused. Yes. If you don't say anything, I will immediately arrange for someone to take you back, Len Ning said directly. After the things here were over, she still had to go find her elder brother, and she didn't have time to waste time with him. Don't, something is wrong, something is wrong. Zhang Huai quickly became serious. Len Ning then glanced at him. Wait for him to follow. Ahem, didn't you tell me before that I should hurry up and deal with the matter of Quanglan's merging into the Thunder Base? Zhang Huai's face suddenly became serious. Well, have you thought it through? Len Ning asked. It's almost done, Zhang Huai said. In fact, it has already been determined. In order not to miss the latest round of pills, my father and his second and third uncles quickly agreed to this matter. Now that the caliber of the entire Quanglan base is completely the same, it can be merged into the Thunder Base at any time as long as he completes negotiations with the Thunder Base. However, before officially being incorporated into the Thunder Base, he had to work hard to gain more benefits for Quanglan. Len Ning raised his eyes and glanced at Zhang Huai. He felt something was wrong in his heart, but he didn't catch it. In addition to seeing those two people off this time, I'm also here to see you. I want you to take me to meet Mr. Lei. He came to the Thunder Base to be the hall leader, and many conditions could only be negotiated with Mr. Lei. The Wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Qi Now. Chapter 591. Len Ning looked at Zhang Huai again. Brother, I don't have time to see idle people. Are you sure you are ready? At this point, she probably guessed what Zhang Huai was thinking. I asked to see my eldest brother. I'm afraid he's really ready to be inseparable. It's fast enough. That's almost it? Help me with this, Zhang Huai said. Okay. I happen to be going to see my eldest brother, so you can go with me, Len Ning said and stood up. Zhang Huai's face was filled with joy and he quickly stood up. Then, the two of them left the 5th branch office building while chatting and laughing. Then they went to the military headquarters to find Lei Lei. With Len Ning leading him, Zhang Huai followed her to Lei Lei's office smoothly. Knock knock knock. Len Ning knocked on the door of Lei Lei's office. Come in. Thunder's voice soon came from inside. Len Ning looked back at Zhang Huai, unlocked the door and walked in. Xiao Ning, upon seeing the person coming was Len Ning, Lei Lei immediately smiled on his face. I just dropped the documents in my hands and was about to get up to hug my wife, but I saw a man following my wife. In just a moment, the smile on Lei Lei's face faded. Sensing Lei Lei's displeasure, Zhang Huai looked a little embarrassed. I've met Mr. Lei. He walked to the center of the office and quickly saluted Lei Lei. Lei Lei glanced at Zhang Huai and looked at Len Ning again. What are you bringing him for? Asked with his eyes. Len Ning raised the corners of his mouth and shrugged. People come to you to discuss important matters, and I am here to help. Yeah, Lei Lei responded to Zhang Huai. Sit down then, he said. Thank you, Mr. Lei, Zhang Huai said respectfully. Then he went to the sofa and sat down far away from Len Ning. He has always understood the rules and knows that Mr. Lei cares deeply about his wife. At this time, in front of others, he had to draw a clear line and stay as far away from Len Ning as possible. After seeing Zhang Huai's actions, Lei Ting's expression actually improved. Len Ning glanced at Lei Lei with a smile, then looked at Zhang Huai, signaling him to speak quickly. Cough. Zhang Huai calmed down and accidentally coughed because he was a little nervous. Seeing Lei Lei frowning slightly, Zhang Huai quickly stood up and said, I came to see Mr. Lei this time to talk to you about the surrender of our Quanglan base. Lei Lei was slightly startled and looked at Len Ning. Seeing Len Ning's look back at him, he turned to Zhang Huai and said, Didn't you talk to me about this matter a long time ago? Since the death of Zhang Lin at Quanglan base, Zhang Huai has indeed been living a very happy life. However, he can be considered somewhat capable by finishing Quanglin Shangxiao so quickly. Yes. Now that Quanglin is about to surrender, we want to confirm the previous conditions with Mr. Lei. Zhang Huai lowered his head and said. Yeah, Lei responded. Hearing that Lei didn't say much, Zhang Huai felt happy. As you promised before, you would give me the position of leader of the 6th branch of Lei base. This is what he cares about most. There are so many people in Kuanglan, and they still have to be his subordinates after entering the Thunder base. The total number of these people is no less than the number of people in the major branches of the Thunder base. Although it is inferior in strength, it is ready-made at least. Besides, once they can use the pills, their strength will be improved quickly in a short time. Okay, Lei said calmly. It is very useful to integrate such a large team into the military headquarters, but it is difficult to leave it to others to manage. Now that there are ready-made people, there is no need to worry about integration with the military. What should he refuse to agree to? Zhang Huai looked happy. Thank you, Mr. Lei, he said quickly to Lei Ting. Is there anything else? Lei asked Zhang Huai in a rare voice. Also, we want to apply to move to Lishan or Kongzhen. A flash of hesitation flashed across Zhang Huai's face, and then he said to Lei Ting. Len Ning glanced sharply at Zhang Huai. Going to Lishan or Kongzhen? Okay, the abacus is good. She had no problem with not dividing her territory, but if he wanted to take advantage of it and divide her 5th branch's territory, she couldn't agree to it. It was obvious that this was what he had in mind, otherwise he would have been able to talk to her in private about the matter. Thinking of this, Len Ning looked at Zhang Huai and looked unfriendly. Okay, it was a waste of time for her to help him a lot, but he actually wanted to take advantage of her Kongzhen. Zhang Huai looked a little embarrassed. The merging of Quanglin base into Thunder was such a big deal, with the interests of thousands of people involved behind it. He had to plan for Quanglin's people. Even if you know that there is a high possibility of rejection, you still have to fight for it, right? Didn't you say last time that you didn't want to move? Lei asked. He also asked him to expand the planning scope of the safe zone and incorporate the current territory of Quanglin base into it. Since you are determined to surrender, it is better to move to the Thunder base. Only in this way can you consider surrender in the true sense. Zhang Huai respectfully said to Thunder, this is what my father meant. They really couldn't bear to part with the current territory of Quanglin base, but compared to the territory, it was more important to completely become one family with Thunder. In this way, they can get the best stuff and at the same time prevent the Southern Army base from coming back for revenge. It's okay to move into Thunder base, but your soldiers can only be stationed in the security planning area, Lei said calmly. Lishan and Kongzhen are the origins of the Thunder base. Only the 4 major branches and the 5th branch can be stationed, and other soldiers cannot be stationed. Not only Quanglin's people can't do it, but also other major bases in the future, unless they voluntarily merge into the 5 major branches. Of course, despite this, due to the limited territory, the 5 branches will most likely only station themselves in the safe planning area. This will not only avoid many problems, but also allow these people to help invest in the construction of safe zones. It's like killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Zhang Huai sighed in his heart. Somewhat disappointed but not disappointed. Even before he made the request, he had predicted that it was unlikely to be granted. Then can we choose the safe zone closest to the Thunder base? Zhang Huai then asked. The safety zone of the Thunder base was planned very quickly, and now an area is beginning to take shape. If his people come over, they only need to put in some effort to help speed up the planning and construction. I believe they will soon be able to create a large area of land with complete facilities. You can't enter Lishan and Kongzhen, so it's nice to be able to stay close to the power center of the Thunder base. Yes. After the land is assigned to you, you will arrange and complete the subsequent planning and construction work yourself, Lei said directly. The overall quality of the soldiers in Quanglan Base is not low. Although it is not as good as the various branches under his current command, they still have great potential. Moreover, this team has a large number of people. If they are well cultivated, they will definitely come in handy. Yes. Thank you so much, Mr. Lei. Zhang Huai smiled and hurriedly clasped his fists at Lei Lei to thank him. As for you ordinary people who came here, the entire Thunder base will not restrict their free movement and settlement. Thunder continued. Soldiers have a sense of belonging, but ordinary people do not.